Hello, today we're going to show you how to make a hand-tied rose and hydrangea vase centerpiece. This is an incredibly customizable, versatile, easy to make, beginner-friendly, budget-friendly arrangement. This can be done and put together by virtually anyone. So it's incredibly easy for the bride on a budget or for any other event that requires something to be made quite quickly in high volume and for a very little expense. So as you see here, today we're going to be working with some muted pastel tones. We have some muted purple, some blush pink, some white, and this is going to be for our bride. And we're also going to be using some hydrangea. Now the hydrangea is a very key component here because the hydrangea will, number one, give you some inherent volume. It will promote the structure of this arrangement. It's exactly what makes it so easy to make this arrangement look very full, very symmetrical, and at the same time incredibly easy to put together, not really requiring any sort of chicken wire or foam to get that shape correct. We're also going to be using some Dusty Miller. Now, you are free to use whatever greenery you desire. You can use some eucalyptus or whatever greenery you have accessible to you. But since this is very complementary to the muted tones that we're going to be working with today, that's what we're going to be using. As well, we're going to be using some baby's breath. If you do not like baby's breath, you can omit or you can substitute. We're also going to be using some floral tape as always, some scissors. We are going to have our vases prepared and filled with warm water. And we're going to begin by taking the plastic off of the hydrangeas and preparing them for assembly. So today we're going to be working with a couple of stems of hydrangea, 5 to be precise. However, this number will vary depending on the volume of your hydrangea. If you have a large hydrangea that is incredibly voluminous, you can use fewer stems. If yours vary in size, you can use more stems. We're also going to be using some champagne waterproof ribbon, and that's going to be to seal the stems but also add a bit of an accent, and we'll get to that a bit later. So as you see here, I am sort of fluffing out the hydrangeas and I'm putting them together back to back in this sort of voluminous spherical shape. Then all you have to do is take your roses and place them in between the gaps of the hydrangeas. You can arrange, if you have various colors and tones, you can arrange them however you would like. If you want them to be evenly mixed throughout the hydrangeas, you can do that. If you want a certain shade concentrated in the middle or concentrated in the sides, you can do that as well. It is entirely up to you, and you can follow your own imagination in your own eye and achieve the look that you're going for here. There is no mathematical pattern to this. Just follow the gaps created between the hydrangeas when you're doing this. The hydrangeas are going to offer a bit of support for the roses. It's going to keep the heads firm and also allow them to open up, but just enough so that the stems are protected, which is very key in transport as well. So as you see here, you just follow along. You place your roses in between the hydrangeas and you create this very easy centerpiece. So as you see, it's really very simple to put together. You do not have to be a very skilled florist. You can be just beginning to try to create this, but it looks so elegant, so simple, and very complementary to your event setting. So as you see here, once we have finished putting the roses, we're going to set the gaps with some baby's breath. If you do not like baby's breath, feel free to omit or substitute as previously mentioned. But the baby's breath in this circumstance just adds more to that very delicate look of the centerpiece. Ensure that the stems on the baby's breath aren't cut too short. You do want to make sure that they're touching the water at least a little bit. Although baby's breath is quite resilient, you don't want it to just dry out, especially if your event is in the summertime and it's going to be very hot outside or in your venue. So keep mindful of that. Then we're going to take our Dusty Miller and we're going to fill in some gaps as well, and create that very rustic, very vintage look that is quite complementary with the pastel muted tones. So as you see here, I did also leave the stems of the Dusty Miller to be a little bit long. Since this is a plant that grows naturally, the stems are usually related to the length of the plant. However, do attempt to ensure that there are some of the stems that remain and do touch the water if you are working with greenery like this, because you don't want it to wilt, you don't want it to burn, and you want it to be hydrated during your ceremony. So once you have completed this arrangement, you do want to trim the stems. Now this is very important to be mindful. You do want the stems to reach the bottom of your vase. You don't want them to be too short. You don't want them to be too long. You don't want them to wobble. So you want to ensure that you measure out your vase and get a sense of how long the stems should be before you cut them, because once you cut them, of course, there is no turning back. Then you're going to take your floral tape and you're going to secure the stems. So as you see here, you might just wish to place them in the vase and just get a sense of whether or not the stems need a little bit of a trim, whether they're perfect. Then the next step is going to be to use our waterproof champagne colored ribbon. This, once again, adds quite a bit of an accent. It's very complimentary. Since the vase is transparent, you can use a complementary color to the theme that you're working with, and it's going to be visible for your guests through the glass. Instead of having them look at raw naked stems, you're going to have that additional accent. And as you see here, once you have tightly bound up all the stems, we're going to use some pearl pins to secure that ribbon to the stems. You can use pearl pins, you can use a decorative pin, you can use whatever pin that you like. Often our brides will match the ribbon of their arrangements in these situations to the ribbons that are binding their bouquets, for example, if you would like to have a running theme. So as you see here, it's an incredibly easy arrangement to make. It takes virtually no time at all. It's very beautiful, very elegant, rustic, and quite complementary to the seasonal wedding theme this year. And it's quite timeless as well. It's once more very budget friendly and beginner friendly, as previously mentioned. These arrangements are easy to transport, and they're going to create that very delicate, elegant touch to your banquet hall or event room. Once you have finished, you can lightly dust the flowers, mist them with some water. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you in our next video.